I stared at my son's twisted face as the word hung in the air between us. Loser. That's what he called me, his own father. The expensive watch on his wrist caught the light as he gestured dismissively, making his point with the cruel confidence of someone who believed they knew everything about success. But Jason didn't know the half of it. Not yet. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. I never wanted recognition. That wasn't my style. I'm Thomas Rodriguez, son of Mexican immigrants who arrived in this country with nothing but calloused hands and relentless work ethics. My father repaired shoes in a tiny shop that smelled of leather and polish. My mother cleaned houses, returning home with raw hands and tired eyes. They taught me that real power doesn't announce itself. It builds quietly, patiently, like water carving through stone. At 17, I took my first job sweeping floors at Plastiform Industries, a small manufacturing company making injection-molded components. The place was hot, loud, and smelled of melting polymers and industrial lubricant. I stayed late most nights, watching the machines run, asking questions that probably annoyed the operators. But I was fascinated by the transformation, how raw materials became valuable products. "You always watching, kid," my supervisor Manuel would say. "Most guys just waiting for the clock. You different." I wasn't smarter than the others, just more curious, more patient. By 23, I was managing the production line. By 30, I understood every aspect of the business, from sourcing raw materials to client relationships. When I met Elizabeth at a community college night class, I was already saving to start my own business someday. She was beautiful, brilliant, and saw something in me that others missed. "You don't talk much about yourself, Thomas," she said on our third date, sipping coffee in a diner that played old Elvis songs on the jukebox. "But your eyes light up when you talk about building something that lasts." We married the next year, and Jason came along shortly after. Our home was modest, a small 3-bedroom in a decent neighborhood with schools that wouldn't hold our son back. Elizabeth taught kindergarten while I continued climbing the ladder at Plastiform. I still remember the night my old boss, Richard Markson, called me to his office after hours. He was 67 then, gray-haired with permanently stained fingers from decades of handling industrial dyes. "Thomas," he said, pouring 2 fingers of whiskey into paper cups, "I'm selling the business." My heart sank. New owners usually meant changes, often meant layoffs. "I've had offers," he continued, "but they'll gut the place, fire half the staff, move production overseas." He pushed a folder across his cluttered desk. "So I wanted to give you first chance." Inside was an offer to buy Plastiform, at a price I couldn't possibly afford. But Richard had a plan. He would finance most of it himself, letting me pay him over 15 years from the company's profits. "Why me?" I asked. "Because you see what this place could be," he answered simply, "and you care about the people who built it." That night, I couldn't sleep. The opportunity was enormous, but so was the risk. Elizabeth found me at the kitchen table at 3 a.m., surrounded by calculators and papers. "We'll make it work," she said, squeezing my shoulder. "You've been preparing for this your whole life." We took out a second mortgage, emptied our savings. I sold my father's watch, the only valuable thing he ever owned. On paper, it made no sense, but I believed in what we could build. Those early years as owner were brutal. 70-hour weeks, missed birthdays, sleepless nights worrying about meeting payroll. While other fathers coached Little League, I was reviewing contracts and fixing broken equipment. Elizabeth carried more than her share at home, raising Jason with the values we both believed in. Hard work, honesty, education. Jason was a bright kid with his mother's quick mind and my stubborn determination. We made sure he had opportunities neither of us had growing up. Good schools, summer camps, college without debt. He never saw the nights I sat at our kitchen table with the checkbook, moving numbers around like puzzle pieces to make everything fit. When he was 14, Elizabeth was diagnosed with breast cancer. The treatments were aggressive, expensive, and ultimately futile. We lost her when Jason was 16. After the funeral, he retreated into himself, channeling grief into ambition. I retreated into work, channeling mine into building something that would give him security. While Jason was in college studying marketing, I was making the biggest decision of my career. My friend Carlos Navarro approached me about starting a new venture, an eco-friendly packaging company using revolutionary materials that would eventually replace traditional plastics. He had the technology, I had the manufacturing experience, and some capital from Plastiform's success. "We could change the industry, Thomas," Carlos said, his eyes bright with possibility. "But I need a partner who understands both the business and production sides." I invested heavily, becoming the majority silent partner in Navarro Sustainable Packaging. Carlos would be the public face. He was better with presentations and publicity anyway. I would guide strategy and operations from behind the scenes while still running Plastiform. Why stay silent? Partly because I was never comfortable in the spotlight. Partly because I wanted to create something that would stand on its own merits, not my reputation. And partly, if I'm being honest, because I wanted to create a place where Jason could succeed on his own terms someday, without being immediately labeled as the boss's son. When Jason graduated with honors, he landed a job at a sleek marketing firm in the city. He wore expensive suits, used business jargon I didn't understand, and slowly began to look at me with something like pity. "Dad, you should really upgrade your phone," he'd say. Or, "That shirt makes you look like you're stuck in the 90s. Small comments, little cuts. I noticed the change when he'd bring friends home. He'd introduce me vaguely as my dad who works in manufacturing, quickly changing the subject. Once, I overheard him telling his girlfriend he's old school, never really understood how modern business works. It hurt, but I said nothing. Parents weather these storms of youthful arrogance. Also, I told myself, 3 years into his career, Jason hit a wall. The marketing firm downsized, and he was among the first let go. His confidence shattered. He moved back home temporarily. I suggested he consider applying to Navarro Sustainable, which was growing rapidly and needed marketing talent. "A packaging company?" he scoffed. "Dad, I was working with tech startups and fashion brands." "Just consider it," I said mildly. "They're doing innovative things." After 2 months of failed interviews elsewhere, he reluctantly applied. Carlos, recognizing the name, called me immediately. "Your son just submitted an application. Impressive resume." "Treat him like any other candidate," I insisted. "No special treatment." Jason got the job on merit. His portfolio was genuinely good. Within months, he was thriving, developing campaigns that highlighted the company's environmental innovations. He moved into his own apartment, bought a new car, and regained his confidence. What he didn't regain was his respect for me. Our Sunday dinners became a showcase for his new expertise. He'd explain market trends and digital strategies with the patient tone one might use with a confused child. I'd listen, ask questions, and keep my own counsel. "You should see our new executive suite, Dad," he said one evening as we shared takeout at my kitchen table. "Floor-to-ceiling windows, ergonomic everything. You wouldn't believe the technology we're using." "Sounds impressive," I said, refilling his water glass. "The CEO says we're revolutionizing the industry." His chest puffed slightly with reflected glory. "He's brilliant. Started from nothing and built this whole company." I smiled. "Carlos is a smart man." Jason looked surprised. "You know, Mr. Navarro?" "We've met," I said simply. The real breaking point came last month. Jason had been passed over for a promotion he felt certain he deserved. He arrived at my house unannounced, agitated, and looking for someone to blame. "The problem is, I've been too nice." He paced my living room. "That's what happens when you're raised with old-fashioned values. The aggressive guys get ahead." I listened as he vented, offering occasional perspective. "Maybe there's more to leadership than aggression. What would you know about corporate leadership?" His voice took on an edge I'd never heard before. You've spent your whole life in the same little factory. The world has changed, Dad. I kept my voice even. Success isn't always what it appears to be, Jason. No offense, but taking advice on success from you is like... He searched for the right comparison, like taking investment advice from someone who's broke. I felt something shift inside me. What exactly do you mean by that? I mean... He hesitated, then something broke loose. You've worked your whole life, and what do you have to show for it? This same house for 30 years, no vacations, no luxury. You're a good man, Dad, but you're a loser in the game of life. The word hung between us like smoke. Loser. I looked at my son, this boy I'd sacrificed everything for, and saw a stranger wearing expensive clothes and cheap values. I think you should leave now, I said quietly. Dad, I didn't mean... Yes, you did. And that's okay. But I think we both need some space right now. After he left, I made 2 phone calls. One to Carlos, one to our HR director. The following morning, Jason was summoned to an all-hands meeting in the company's main conference room. He texted me afterward. Something weird happening at work. Big announcement today. I didn't respond. When Jason entered the conference room, he saw the usual executives seated at the table. Then he noticed me sitting quietly in the corner, wearing a simple button-down shirt instead of my usual work clothes. Carlos stood at the front of the room. Good morning, everyone. Today, we're announcing some organizational changes as we prepare for our expansion into European markets. Jason glanced at me, confused by my presence. But first, Carlos continued, I'd like to acknowledge someone who doesn't often take the spotlight. Without him, Navarro Sustainable wouldn't exist. He gestured toward me. Thomas Rodriguez, our founding investor and majority owner. The room broke into applause, while Jason's face drained of color. Mr. Rodriguez has guided our strategy since inception, while simultaneously running his own successful manufacturing business. His vision for sustainable manufacturing has been our North Star. Jason looked like he might be sick. Our eyes met across the room, and I saw the exact moment when understanding dawned. After the meeting, he found me in the small office I kept at Navarro but rarely used. Dad, he began, his voice unsteady. I had no idea. I know. Why didn't you ever tell me you owned the company? I considered the question carefully. Would it have changed how you see me, or would you have just respected the title instead of the person? He flinched as though I'd struck him. I wanted you to find your own way, I continued, to succeed because of your talent, not my position. And yesterday when I called you a... He couldn't finish the sentence. A loser? I supplied gently. Yes, that was unfortunate timing on your part. Jason sank into a chair, his carefully constructed worldview collapsing around him. I don't understand. You live so simply. You drive a 10-year-old car. You wear clothes from department stores. Because those things don't matter to me. I leaned forward. Success isn't about what you have, Jason. It's about what you build. It's about the people whose lives you improve. Employees, customers, family. I've been so arrogant, he whispered. Yes, I agreed. You have. What happens now? He asked. I'd given this considerable thought. Now, you have a choice. You can continue working here, but you'll be transferred to our production facility. 6 months learning the business from the ground up, just like I did. No special treatment. After that, if you still want a career here, we'll talk about next steps. And if I don't want that, then you're free to find another job. I won't stand in your way, but my money stays out of your life from this point forward. He was quiet for a long moment. I'd like to try. To learn the business, I mean. It won't be easy, I warned. The people on the production floor already know who you are and what you've said about jobs like theirs in the past. He winced. I deserve that. You'll start Monday, 7 a.m. sharp. Steel-toed boots and work clothes. Your supervisor will be Louise Martinez. She's been with us since the beginning and knows more about our processes than anyone. Louise? The older woman with the grey hair who brings homemade tortillas to company picnics? The same. She also has 2 engineering patents and built our first production line from scratch. Jason looked properly chastened. I have a lot to learn, don't I? About business? Yes. About life? Even more. As he stood to leave, he paused at the door. Dad, I'm sorry. I know you are, son. But here's something your grandfather taught me. Apologizing with words is easy. Apologizing with changed behavior takes courage. He nodded and left, shoulders slumped under the weight of his own arrogance. That was 3 months ago. Jason's journey hasn't been easy. His first week on the production floor left him physically exhausted and emotionally humbled. Louise showed no mercy, assigning him the most demanding tasks and correcting his mistakes publicly. Your father swept these same floors, she told him on his 3rd day. Difference is, he asked questions about how to make things better instead of complaining about how hard the work was. Slowly, grudgingly, Jason earned a measure of respect from his co-workers. He stopped talking and started listening, stopped assuming and started learning. Last Sunday, he came for dinner with grease-stained hands and tired eyes. But there was something different about him, a quieter confidence that came from actual accomplishment rather than position. I helped fix the extruder today, he said with genuine pride, saved 4 hours of downtime. That's significant, I acknowledged. Production stoppages are expensive. I know that now. He took a bite of the simple stew I'd made. Actually, I understand a lot of things better now. We ate in comfortable silence for a while before he spoke again. Dad, can I ask you something? Why didn't you live more comfortably? You could afford it. I considered the question. Your mother and I decided early on what kind of life we wanted. We chose security over luxury, relationships over possessions. I gestured around the modest home that had sheltered our family for 3 decades. This was enough for us. But now, Mom's been gone for years. Now it's habit, I suppose, and principle. I never wanted to be the kind of boss who lives lavishly while asking employees to sacrifice. Actions speak louder than mission statements. Jason nodded slowly. The workers respect you, even the ones who've never met you. Louise told me stories about times you kept people on payroll during downturns, paid for medical treatments the insurance wouldn't cover. That's not charity, I said firmly. It's just decent business. Loyal people build strong companies. I wish I'd understood that sooner. He looked around the kitchen, seeing it with new eyes. I misjudged everything. Called success failure. Called substance emptiness. You're learning, I said simply. Can I ask one more thing? Why did Carlos get to be the public face while you stayed in the background? You built this company as much as he did. I smiled. Carlos enjoys the spotlight. I enjoy solving problems. We each play to our strengths. Like a good team, Jason murmured. Exactly like that. Later, as he was leaving, he paused at the door just as he had in my office months before. But this time, when he looked at me, I saw something I'd been waiting years to see. Not the superficial respect granted to titles and positions, but the deeper recognition of one person truly seeing another. I'll never call you a loser again, Dad, he said quietly. But I might start calling you my hero if that's okay. I'm not a man comfortable with emotional displays. But in that moment, I put my hand on my son's shoulder and allowed myself to feel the full circle we'd traveled. I'd like that just fine, son. We don't always get second chances with the people we love. Sometimes pride builds walls too high to climb. Sometimes words cut too deep to heal. But that evening, standing in the doorway of the modest home where I'd raised my son, I realized we'd been given a rare gift, the opportunity to truly see each other beyond titles and appearances, and recognize the value that had been there all along. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Would you have revealed your ownership earlier or handled the situation differently? To hear the next story, just click on the box on the screen. Thank you so much for listening.